Hi there. Welcome to Zakaya's live learning series. I'm Brianna. I'm the founder of Zakaya, and I'm also on their board of directors. I also have with me today Christian, who is a senior associate at Zakaya, and he specializes in GIS, which ironically, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Christian has a Master of Science in GIS Management, and he plays a really important role in pretty much almost all of our GIS projects. So I'm really excited to have him here today. While we are live, feel free to ask questions. You can just post them in the comments and we will do our best to answer them. If you're watching the replay, you can still post comments and we'll just answer them at some other future time. Replays are available on our website under zakaya.com under Insights. So with that said, I am really excited to welcome Christian. So welcome, Christian.
Hey, Brianna, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm always excited to do these, so hopefully you are too.
I am looking forward to it.
Yay. So really basic question, really easy one. We're going to throw you a nice big snowball. What's GIS?
GIS, well, it's an acronym. So it's both the study of the whole discipline and everything that kind of goes into it, but it's also the system. So it's geographic information, and then science is the study, and then systems is kind of the architecture. And really what it is for me on a day-to-day is it's a system that you bring in spatial data and you can manipulate, analyze, and then visualize and create, make better decisions based upon all the information that you're able to glean from the data.
Okay. So basically, if I could rephrase that, you tell me if I'm right. So if somebody has like a ton of information, GIS basically takes it and makes it so that it's easier to see it and then understand it. And so yes, hopefully they're making better decisions, right? Not
exactly. It can help, you have like a whole national level amount of information. And it's like, well, I only want little bits and pieces of it, or I want to see little bits and pieces of it at a more, lower scale level.
Okay. That's cool. Can you give me an example of maybe something that how GIS is used?
So a lot of people, use GIS today, more so than ever before with like GPS and routing and stuff like that. Companies like UPS and FedEx, they have all these parcels that they need to deliver on a daily basis, and they need to figure out how many trucks they need to do it, how many parcels can fit on each truck based upon where they're all going. And so they have a data set of all that information, and then they can use it to also do routing, so they can figure out how long people are going to work and how much they're going to end up getting paid. So it's that's definitely what a lot of people will see it in their daily lives is like packages and stuff, especially right now.
Yes. And we're all wondering, where is our package and why isn't it here? That's a pretty important thing. And I know people are familiar with the word GPS, and that's slightly different. It's basically GIS's and the difference between that and GPS, since that's what people see. They see their maps on their road, but they don't necessarily, that's not the same thing.
GPS is the system that, positions you on the earth using satellites.
Okay. All right, cool. So can you, kind of leads us into our next question. What are some of the software products that you use in your job having to do with GIS?
So the one huge player in the space is called ESRI, or Environmental Systems Research Institute, and they kind of have cornered the market on education, and then also a lot of entities use their software. And so they create a software product called ArcGIS, which is ArcMap and ArcCatalog. But there are also some additional open source players, because Esri though it is robust, it's also relatively expensive. And some smaller organizations aren't able to purchase an Esri license just because of how much it costs. So there's other ones called, Leaflet, Mapbox, Manifold GIS, QGIS. There's a list that's endless, and a lot of them actually do bring to the table very similar functionality that Esri has. They're just not as they don't offer the same breadth.
Okay. All right. So, that makes a lot of sense to me, but it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense to some of the people listening to it. But I know that we probably have a pretty wide audience of people who are very much involved in GIS, and then people who maybe just don't quite understand what it is at all. So, thanks for kind of going over those. Can you talk a little bit about what Zakaya does with GIS, or some of the projects that we do? And I know we can't talk about all of them, but is there some example of how we might use GIS in some of our projects?
Sure. So we've used it in a variety of ways. typically, we've used it as a map production engine. So we're able to house all of the data and then create cartographic products from it. So we've done that for a number of customers. And then there's also, there's so much processing power with GIS. We've been able, we'll be on a project where it requires us to, okay, we have all of this information and we need to find, let's say, where is the best location to put a new business or something like that. And so we can develop processes and workflows to analyze that data and then run through it and then spit out the results so that it's a much smaller data set than to look at. It's like, hey, Zakiah wants to have a new office in, let's say, Northern Virginia for some reason. Like, well, we need it to be close to a highway so it has good frontage for advertising. It needs to be in the right zoning area. It needs to be of a certain size. And so from there we can take a huge large picture and get it smaller, 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 and then maybe we have like 20 options of places to go out and look. To go look at the sites, as opposed to, oh, I wonder where we could possibly go.
That's a really, really good example. That's great, Christian. I like that one. So, I mean, there's probably some people who are thinking about like either they're graduating high school, they're graduating college, they're maybe just trying to think of a new career. And GIS sounds like a pretty cool thing to be doing. Can you talk a little bit about how to get into GIS? What are the different career paths that you can go through with GIS, or maybe some things that people should think about if they're thinking about going into that career?
Sure. So like many people I know, I kind of fell into GIS in college, and so that's the perspective that I have. I will suggest that if you're interested in GIS, definitely take as many classes that are specific to it as possible. But those explicitly that you should focus on would be programming. GIS, especially Esri products, use Python as a scripting engine to automate a lot of the analysis processes that you can do, and that does give you a leg up on the competition. There's kind of a divide in between your typical analyst who knows the software really well, knows how to interact with it, but a developer can help extend it. And so that kind of makes you, a little bit head and shoulders above some of your contemporaries if you follow kind of that programming track. And yes, Python is important, but really just having experience with any sort of object-oriented language. It used to be BASIC, and I have a little bit of experience with Java too. And just being able to prove to an employer I can think programmatically and go a little bit above and beyond what the software offers out of the box really does pay off in dividends later on in your career.
I can definitely reiterate what you just said. I mean, I'm on the recruiting side of what Zakiah does. And by far, we have a lot more requests from our clients for people who have a little bit of programming experience, even just a small amount. I mean, it's great if you have a lot, but even a small amount makes you a huge leg up. And we also get a lot more resumes in that don't have that than those that do. So if you want to stand out, man, Christian has a great point in including that programming experience. So we had a question in one of our comments below, and it's probably tied in pretty close to what we're just discussing now in terms of careers in GIS. And the question is, could you explain the difference between a GIS user, a GIS analyst, and a GIS developer? There are three different terms. They all sound pretty close to each other. So what are the differences between those three terms?
Sure. So a user would be somebody who kind of benefits from the analysis that the GIS does, or maybe, the tech guys, the analysts, the developers create the analysis, and then the end client or end user is the person who looks at it and then makes the decision. So he or she is the one who sees the pretty map or gets all of the analysis printed out in front of them in a clear and concise manner so they can then make decisions. The analyst would be the one who is utilizing the workflow to produce the results. They're kind of the workhorse of the entire organization. Often there are quite a few of them who have all these workflows that they have to go through and take the data from point A to point Z and produce the results. The developer is often the one who kind of comes up with how the whole workflow is going to work and kind of designs it, and then works with the analysts to implement it.
Okay. Yeah, those are great descriptions. And I think it also ties in a lot into the type of positions that you can go into in the GIS field. So
Sure.
Thanks for those descriptions. And also thanks very much for the comment. I think it was a really, really good question, and I'm glad you brought it up. Is there anything that you want to add? I mean, I try to keep these short so that people can get in, get a little information and get out, but, and we're probably near the end of our time, but is there anything that you want to add, Christian, just about the GIS field, or anything that great insights that you have about GIS?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, just like we were talking earlier with careers, we talked about, maybe a college student getting into it, but really, even if you are already interested in it, maybe, pivoting and taking a couple of programming classes, if you are like your bread and butter type of analyst, if you want to, navigate your career into a more development perspective, if you're using Esri products, getting involved with Model Builder, which is it's like a graphical representation of a bunch of tools that you can all put together. And that was, at least for me, my gateway into software development or into Python scripting of GIS processes. So for the most part, I start in pure Python now, and I work entirely in pure Python, but occasionally I will still go back and I wonder what the syntax for that tool is. And I will, create it in Model Builder. It's a great way to visualize the entire process of, okay, I want to make, I want to run this data through this whole process. How is it exactly supposed to go? Are all the steps in the correct order? And so seeing it visually first using Model Builder was a good way to encourage me to then start to do it in a scripting language like Python.
All right. Thanks very much. As I'm the founder of Zakai, and I said that at the beginning, one of the things that has always been really exciting for me as the founder of Zakai was that having people like you, Christian, it's been, I feel like, we actually, we have really awesome people who work at Zakai, and it's a really wonderful thing. Not only because we get to work with people like you, which is a lovely, wonderful thing, but also because we just bring such insane, I feel like, great value to our clients in terms of creating a great product. And it's because of people like you. So thanks very much, Christian, both for doing this today and also just for being who you are every single day. So,
well, I appreciate that. And obviously you're speaking for me, but then also everyone else that we're able to recruit and attract as well. So it's kind of the company culture that we have here.
Yeah, it is great. We say it, but we really speak it too, and we live it. So yeah. Thanks very much. And so I will see you around hopefully soon when we are allowed to see each other again.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Brianna.
Great. Thanks so much. Bye.
Okay, take care.